When I was a kid, I desperately wanted to be special. TV shows like H2O, Just Add Water, or BBC's Young Dracula would decide which fantasy creature I was going to be that week. And to be honest, I feel like this is a very normal experience for almost all children. After all, who wouldn't want to be a cool fictional character or fantasy creature? However, as we get older and more acclimated to the pressures and normalcy that is decided for us as teenagers and adults, we often let go of these fantasies of pretending to be something different. Sometimes reconnecting to it later using hobbies like cosplay or collecting. Hell, sometimes even getting body mods or tattoos to replicate that feeling within ourselves of visually being different and striking and having things about us that we've decided for ourselves in a way that makes us feel more affirmed in who we are. But for some people, this connection to a character specifically isn't just fantasy or pretend. It is a very real feeling, emotional or spiritual connection to a fictional character. Not only loving them, but actually feeling like your identity is directly impacted to or connected to their very existence. And these people call themselves Fictionkins, a more niche community of people both online and in real life who not only feel genuinely connected to a character, but often believe that they are that character.
Enjoying the experience so far, so much so that I began to identify as Baby Bug Bug. I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time, but I stopped referring to Baby Bug Bug in the third person and started referring to him as me right here. So I got this video of me dancing in a spaceship. I'm gonna caption it, "I'm an alien. Follow me so I can get back to my home planet."
Now, as a very real disclaimer, because I know the topic of this video is going to be more jarring for some people to wrap their heads around, I am approaching this entirely in good faith. The subject matter may seem silly to some, but I do want to try and tackle this with both a level of questioning and criticism as well as empathy and interest. I am not a psychiatrist and I am not judge, jury, and executioner. I just want to explore this community as an outsider. And I also don't want anyone in my audience or people who are stumbling across this video and giving it a view to go and harass anyone who is mentioned, featured, or discussed within this video. Because if you do truly feel like bullying people online for being different or for something that you don't agree with is the correct way of responding to something, then you should also consider seeking out professional help too. And of course, as always, if I do get any information incorrect or muddled or whatever else, please feel free to correct me down below or give additional information and sources to cite. One thing that is universally understood is the love and dedication fans have to their idols. Displays of oshikatsu such as eater bags are something that I've discussed a lot within my content before, and is even something that I like to also participate in myself. It's undeniable that idol culture has made huge waves in the last few years. It's no wonder that everywhere you go, you can't escape the clutches of K-pop, J-pop, and cute mascots. Even within Tokyo itself, Shin Okubo is actually touted as the Koreatown of Tokyo, with idol stores being pretty much every other shop, as well as tons of different oshikatsu cafes and photo spots. Idol mania is a huge deal and shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. So is it really any surprise to anyone that the new interactive idol game StarToU is getting tons of hype online for being a new idol mobile game? StarToU goes far beyond the typical mobile game, and instead hopes to foster a virtual idol platform that brings together artists, fans, and music lovers together online. Original dances, original music, and of course, original characters. So our main group currently features the leader and founder Tae, Lim, Noki, and Yura, with Yura being the one that brought all of the different members' ideas and creativity together to create the idol group Macguffin. Something which stirs an air of mystery within the game, as the story emphasizes that the group's journey is far more important than the destination. StarToU is ideal for those not only wanting a new group to support, but also build up and interact with and get to know, especially as our main group focuses on their individuality rather than their uniformity. Growing up with the likes of ensemble stars, and now seeing the popularity of character-based communities such as LADs, I have no doubt that StarToU can easily become something that we see catered for and cosplayed at anime conventions as well. StarToU will begin their beta testing in selected regions in the second half of this year, with global testing planned for the future. But luckily, you can stay updated on all things StarToU by following the social media platforms such as Instagram and TikTok, as well as sign up using the link in my bio and down below for their pre-registration. If you love mobile gaming, as well as games that not only aim to entertain but also grow and foster a community, then be sure to check out and hype up StarToU. And a big thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. So what are Fictionkins really? Because if you take social media at face value, which I would never recommend, it could be anything from a preteen kid role-playing over on TikTok, all the way to overlaps with Therians. Therians being an entirely different topic for another day. But funnily enough, Fictionkin actually goes way back before the existence of social media like TikTok, because before Fictionkin was actually coined, the original term used was otherkin. So starting back in the late 60s, some hippies found their lifestyle and ideals perfectly replicated and encapsulated by Tolkien's hobbits from Lord of the Rings. Smoking long bottom leaf and relaxing amongst nature, many of these free spirits ended up adopting self-given names that were reflective of Tolkien's Middle-earth realm, as well as wearing things like Gandalf for President pins. And then in 1979, members of a Lord of the Rings group started to self-identify specifically as being hobbits. And although there wasn't a term used for this at the time, this is the first known and kind of documented instance of somebody choosing or identifying specifically with a fictional creature or character. And then we're going to jump ahead to a 1990 edition of Elfkind Digest. Elfkind Digest being a mailing list for people who identify as elvish or elves. The terms otherkin and otherkind ended up being featured in the discussions list. According to archived posts and information that I can find of this particular publication, due to a lot of it being defunct now, the original definition of otherkin was one who identifies with various mythological archetypes as vehicles of spiritual evolution and self-expression, similar to native totemism, only with a stronger level of self-identification. Or someone who believes in reincarnation and that not all of their reincarnations were as a human. And so again, this could be anything from an elf to being an orc or to being a hobbit. And this history of otherkin doesn't just start and stop at Elfkind Digest, as other mailing lists such as Lostkin Project, Kin Frontiers, New Kin, and Wandering Paths also existed. Although sadly many of the aforementioned communities or forums no longer exist, they are defunct due to Yahoo updating and no longer archiving them. Although Wandering Paths, also known as Dreamheart, is one that does seem to still be somewhat live and active. The last post on this page being around 3 years ago or so, and this site does have a lot of archived and FAQ resources. So it's definitely worth a look if you want to do some of your own research on the topic as well after this video. And equally, other forums like dragoncity.org are still alive and well too, with its latest update literally being on the 8th of July this year. So I guess if you're watching from dragoncity.org, hi! However, the first use of the term Fictionkin wouldn't be until around 2004, specifically from the From Fiction live journal page, and then later getting the dedicated Fictionkin forums in around 2015. And all of this comes off the back of otakukin and mediakin, with the term otakukin apparently coming from the now defunct website Temple of Otakin and being an identity specifically related to Asian media and characters, whilst mediakin was defined as people who identify as/with characters from modern fiction, particularly, although not limited to, anime, manga, and video games. And there were also community groups and pages such as We Are Na'vi or Na'vi Reborn, specifically for those who identified or related to the Na'vi species from James Cameron's Avatar movie series. Yep, we got Na'vi. We got Na'vi kins before we got GTA 6. And in this book specifically, which is the Handbook of Hyperreal Religions, editor Adam Pasami goes on to house various different written pieces of literature and research into things like Fictionkin and otherkin, specifically an article by Danielle Kirby called Alternative Worlds, Metaphysical Questing and Virtual Community Amongst Otherkin. Although it is important to note that this book isn't specific only to Fictionkin or otherkin. Again, it covers a lot of very interesting religions, identities, pieces of history, both internet and in person, with page 59 to around 84 covering cults such as Heaven's Gate, as well as a religion of real-life vampires and more from pages 141 onwards. I actually decided to buy a hard copy of this book, not only for this video, but also because it has so many interesting things covered and written about that honestly I feel could easily become lost media if it isn't archived properly and isn't looked into properly. Like there is so much in here. I'll have it on screen, but my god, some of which I think would make really interesting video topics in future. I'm bookmarking that. I'm stamping that right here. However, if you're just looking for Fictionkin specific history, then this document by House of Chimera provides a really concise history that I personally used, cited, and looked into for this video, specifically about Fictionkin and Otherkin. They go through a load of different things, cite a load of different sources and resources, including Adam Pasami's book. And so again, I highly recommend you check that out. House of Chimera did a fantastic job of kind of all together in a very concise timeline. And it really is interesting seeing how long these identities have been documented for. However, as of 2026, from what I can find from community pages and Reddit threads, the commonly accepted understanding of Fictionkins today is an individual who involuntarily feels a psychological, spiritual, or physical connection to a fictional character. So unlike hardcore fans or people who perhaps you may ship, this isn't a really hardcore display of dedication of oshikatsu or similar. This is a very kind of physical, spiritual, internal link and identity connected to a fictional character, as opposed to just, oh my god, they're so me. No, this person is them. To them. And this connection to a fictional character for many people who identify as Fictionkin tends to come from the idea of reincarnation, multiple universes and outcomes, and of course the limitless timeline idea. For example, somebody could see a character such as Light Yagami and may internally feel like through the process of reincarnation or multiple timelines and universes that in a previous life or in an alternative timeline, they are Light Yagami or some version of him. This may also be furthered through experiences or memories that an individual believes themselves to have, that they genuinely have experienced or feel that they have experienced. So I guess in our reality, he is a fictional character from a manga, but in another reality, he could very much be a real person, a real flesh and blood entity. And equally, in a similar way to Therians or Otherkin, this is an identity. People who identify as Fictionkin really do believe in the reality of that connection. And of course, the possibility of them being spiritually, physically, or psychologically tied to this character through a past life or an alternative timeline. Unlike kinning, where you just really relate to a character, again, a she's so me, I'm so her type of idea, Fictionkin is once again actually believing that you are in some way this character or directly connected to a previous life of this character, a direct connection to them as opposed to just being a fan of them or relating to them. And it's also important to point out that Fictionkins aren't limited to just covering good, nice, kind fictional characters either. A Fictionkin could be anything from a superhero all the way to a villain. Again, I suppose because it's not something that is chosen, but more so thrust upon somebody, a connection somebody feels regardless of the logic behind it, people don't choose this kind of Mary Sue, I'm Clark Kent style character. Quite often you'll see people who are maybe a Fictionkin of quite a dark character, quite a dark persona or entity. On one Reddit thread that endeavored to try and explain Fictionkinning to somebody who was curious, someone who was trying to explain this identified as an alternative version of William Afton from Five Nights at Freddy's. But basically this Fictionkin goes under the name of Vincent Bishop, and they are a different AU version of William Afton, but still have that kind of FNAF lore overlap. I guess as they put it, the only thing I have in common with Will is that we both killed kids at Freddy's, though he killed much more than I did, and we were both associated with purple. And well, maybe we both died the same way, but again, William did not actually die while I did because, well, Remnant did not exist back when I was popular. It's complicated, and the point is that we are different. Funnily enough though, in my personal memories, William was actually my younger brother. Now you may be sitting there or already typing, wondering how somebody can Fictionkin or identify as a killer of children. And honestly, as somebody who is far outside the community, I'm not the right person to tell you. I can't tell you because I don't know. Part of me after reading it got reminded of that story about how a guy essentially had a whole life through his dream. He had a family, had kids, and he only started to realize that this wasn't real when he was looking and focusing on the lamp in the corner of the room. Then waking up to a really deep depression and almost grief, realizing that this whole life that he genuinely believed he'd experienced and had was now gone. Kind of like that Rick and Morty episode where you put on the VR goggles and you live that whole life as the guy in the carpet shop. That's the first thing that I thought of when reading that statement, because to me it kind of sounds like almost a very, 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 vivid, lucid dream that sucks you in, the kind of dream that you feel like you've lived a million years in. But for some of these people, it's so vivid and real that that's where they find this form of connection with and believe in the reality of that connection. This is the closest way that I can possibly envision the experience that Fictionkins may have. This lucid state of being that feels indescribably real and continues to impact you after you've experienced it. And also another side note is that a Fictionkin's past life or story doesn't have to be 100% canon to the story or universe that they come from in our universe. Because again, most of Fictionkin seems to work on the idea of both reincarnation and the multiverse theory. Some Fictionkin claim to genuinely experience phantom pain or phantom limbs, memories of their past life, mental shifts, and even trauma associated with this past life or memories, all due to this direct connection to said fictional character. And equally, some Fictionkin kind of ship themselves with characters that come from outside the original canon or universe that their character comes from. Again, I know this is kind of confusing. I'm right there with you. It is quite confusing as somebody who is an outsider to this. I'm just trying to put it the best way I can. Hopefully it's making some semblance of sense. Now, as somebody who is just a boring old human, I can't pretend to genuinely understand this or really understand the intricacies of what some Fictionkin describe. Various interactions online can feel similar to, although not comparable, I want to add, to the line blurring that the DID community have experienced over time. Taking what is a factually very rare and hard to diagnose mental disorder or mental condition, one that often causes great stress and difficulty in the person's day-to-day life, and making it into this almost role-play server where all of your favorite characters or fictional characters or OCs come together in this Mickey Mouse Clubhouse-esque congregation. DID isn't this girly pop, me and my alters all hang out and we all have love interests and one of my alters is Markiplier. It's a very, very rare, hard to diagnose, and often incredibly disruptive psychological disorder. There is nothing enviable about having DID. It makes your life so much harder, and I can only imagine the trauma and stress that must have occurred for somebody to have such a condition. It is a very, very hard to diagnose, often clinically questioned condition due to the fact that it is just so difficult to pick apart. And I think like this, where you have people who claim to have DID online and almost use it as an aesthetic to their social profiles, Fictionkin can sometimes be an identity or a label, more so for people to self-express or roleplay and escape from reality.
Aiden, you can't be serious when you indirectly caused my little sister's hamster's death. I fucking took the blame.
Hi guys, it's me, the hamster. I'm a Fictionkin of Pommy's hamster and have the hamster's memories. Everything Pommy said is true here. Jax, how dare you mesh up yourself with my family member after you killed me?
It could be due to neurodivergence and just struggling to form meaningful connections with other people your age, or that feeling of not belonging being emphasized by being neurodivergent, or having struggles at home or struggles with connecting. Or in some cases, it might just be kids online discovering a term that allows them the freedom to self-express and be more bubbly and make friends in a space that feels less judgmental and doesn't rely on their own factual beauty, aesthetic, or home life. It allows you a complete escape because you're no longer you, you're somebody else. It's a complicated one to unravel in this way, because ultimately various threads and forums have such conflicting information and experiences. And the phenomena of Fictionkin is something that isn't really highly studied. And so a lot of the information about it comes more from those within the community and the identity, as opposed to any clinical or scientific research, making it that much harder for people to take seriously or truly understand. Now, some people claim that Fictionkin and similar identities can devalue the trans community, especially as many right-wing talking points and politicians have directly compared transness to being a thing that you just choose. You're choosing to be a thing. Piers Morgan, for example, asked if he could identify as a two-spirit penguin when challenged on his beliefs about non-binary identities, saying that it's one rule for you, but if I want to identify as a two-spirit penguin, you go absolutely nuts and try to control how I self-identify. And of course, all of this kind of rhetoric also comes off of the back of SJW memes, such as the Apache helicopter. Now, I think it's kind of fair for people to sometimes feel skeptical about identities such as Fictionkin, especially during a time where transness is so heavily scrutinized and politicized. And the result is literally threatening the safety of not only trans people who are experiencing a consistent pattern of harassment, if not death. Like that is a problem. We're losing a lot of sisters out there, but even cis people who don't fit the archetypal standards for their gender identity, for their outward expression. God forbid a butch lesbian uses the women's bathroom and some random old biddy decides to come over and say that she's a man. Having to fight to be seen as a woman or a man or even just a human being is being conflated with mostly online discussions around the existence of people who identify as fictional characters such as Valentino or Alistair from Hazbin Hotel. It must be exhausting and somewhat heartbreaking watching alt-right politicians and grifters using content that comes from Fictionkin online communities as a way of devaluing trans people as just being these weirdos who pick a thing, who are choosing to be something different and make it everybody else's problem. Essentially saying, one day a girl can choose to be a boy and then the next thing we're going to be doing is teaching our kids that they can be an octopus or Cthulhu or a two-spirit penguin. Like, that's how they're framing it. Again, as a cis woman, I don't want to stray too far into talking for Fictionkin or talking for trans people because I am neither. But I am a staunch trans ally. Many of my loved ones, my closest friends, are trans, and I have nothing but love for the community and support for the community. I've always been a vocal advocate for it, and if you're not, you ain't on the right damn page. And so many of the people that I care about and the people that they care about are directly threatened by this rise in conservatism and ultimately policing queer identities. And again, so often the straw man argument used against the trans community is conflating transitioning or identifying outside of the standard gender binary as choosing to identify as something more outlandish, such as an animal or a fictional character. Even going further to try and twist the definition of being trans to being this threatening thing, confusing the kids. The kids are confused! The kids are scared and confused! As if a child won't look you dead in the eye and tell you that they want to grow up and be a shark. Who could that have been? I wonder. Maybe me. Not to mention the potentially murky ethics of somebody who is a Fictionkin identifying as somebody outside of their own race. More specifically, being someone who lives with white privilege, Fictionkinning an identity of somebody who is a minority from a minority group. Understandably, for some people, they may see it as a way for some to cosplay a level of oppression from the safety of their whiteness. Again, this is more of a theoretical discussion around some of these ethics. I don't think there's an epidemic of people in the Fictionkin space doing this. Again, it is often the most vocal, obnoxious outliers that muddy the water for everybody else who is just staying in their lane and not bothering anyone. And if you go onto places like TikTok, you will see numerous videos and slime rants of people questioning the validity or the ethics of Fictionkin, with some people, often children, being staunch Fictionkins, whilst others are immediately jumping to disregard it or even ridicule it. And in my humble opinion, when it comes to Fictionkin, I'm a little bit of a live and let live kind of person. Now, to be clear, if your identity as a Fictionkin is impacting your ability to access or attend education, keep a job, or healthy relationships with others, then it really is important that you go and seek professional help. Not because necessarily your identity is a problem, but because the way that you are retreating from society could detrimentally impact your life and also cause the harm or worry of loved ones around you. Compromising your quality of life isn't fair to you or the people who care about you. And there could potentially be underlying, undiagnosed medical concerns that are worth addressing or looking into that maybe you're not aware of if you are withdrawing from society or withdrawing from things that are essential to living in the world with everybody else. Delusion or self-induced psychosis could be something that a small percentage of people who identify as Fictionkin could go on to experience or may be experiencing and aren't aware of it. Again, that's not to say that people who are Fictionkin are crazy and they need medical help. I'm not saying that, but I do think, like with anything, such as Yume shipping, for example, there can be a point where if your relationship with it becomes unhealthy, that does require medical intervention. In the same way that if your relationship with yourself, regardless of your identity, becomes unhealthy, you need to go and see a professional, seek a therapist. Like, seeking therapy isn't a shameful thing to do. Plenty of people who aren't Fictionkin do that too. And so again, it's important to kind of look after yourself within this. And equally, identifying as a Fictionkin, just like with anything else, doesn't absolve you of the things that you do to others. You don't get to harm others, cause distress, be racist or nasty or manipulative because you identify with somebody who maybe in their reality as a fictional character is that way. In the same way that you wouldn't get to do that same behavior just because you have a disability or a mental health condition. You are not the exception to the rule, and in this universe, being a crappy person, regardless of what person that is does have consequences. It is your responsibility, as it is anyone's, to exist in a world with other sentient people in it. However, despite me not really understanding Fictionkin because I'm just not one, I also don't think it's anywhere appropriate or okay to ridicule, bully, or harass those who do identify as Fictionkin. So many things, medically or otherwise, get misunderstood for a very long time because the technology or the research simply hasn't been there for it. Sometimes it just takes time passing by for more answers and information to come to the surface. And equally, for many vocal Fictionkins on social media, I tend to lean to the idea that many of them are probably just young kids, young teenagers who identify with Fictionkin more so as an escape from reality and a way to continue that form of imaginative play with others who understand them. People who may very well grow up and feel less need to connect with or identify with this Fictionkin persona or reality. Of course, that isn't to say that all Fictionkins will grow up and not be Fictionkin anymore, but I do think that the fantasy element of this identity has led to a much more confused digital footprint than many other identities and online communities, possibly due to many young people using it as an outlet from reality. Lonely kids and maybe those who are just questioning parts of their identity coming across a term like Fictionkin that allows them to escape their reality for a short period of time. Kind of like how I always wanted to be a fantasy creature or a cool character in a book or a story, like I always wanted to have superpowers, or how some people get a lot of catharsism from going to things like LARP, like Empire, which allows you to live action roleplay as an entirely different person, an entirely different creature sometimes. And people get really into it. Like, my God, you ever seen a LARP funeral? Crazy. My friend died at a LARP funeral last game. Crazy work. People were crying. People get into it. It's a level of catharsism. This escape from what is an oppressive, capitalistic, rigid, hard reality can be something as simple as I'm going to go to a field with people that get it and fight and drink and be merry. And that's how I am able to exist in this reality for the rest of the year. I get to go to these places, I get to cosplay. It's a similar kind of thing, I think, for some people. In my mind, Fictionkin is this weird rabbit hole constructed by so many varying voices and experiences and identities over time. But as outsiders, we do just have the choice to not go down the rabbit hole, let the canary out of its cage, and go home to our 5 kids and a loving wife. We don't have to go down this cave dive today. Because so often the negative behavior around this community and this identity just feels like a lame extension of generic lolcow culture, where punching down or even grooming people into antisocial or embarrassing behavior is a form of entertainment for a bunch of losers on the internet. Regardless of whether you feel like Fictionkin identities are real or not, you are not a hero for bullying people. But I guess let me know down below, are you somebody who identifies as a Fictionkin? If yes, please try and explain it in a way that maybe is a little bit more understandable to an outsider, not because you owe it, but because I think it'd be interesting to hear from people who are from this identity in a way that maybe makes more sense to me. Maybe the lamp comparison that I made actually does make a level of sense, but it's more kind of deep and spiritual than that. Let me know. I would like to hear it. But of course, let me know as well, what do you think of the Fictionkin identity? Is this something that you can be on board with? Do you believe in it or aspects of it? Do you feel like it's a negative? Do you feel like it's a positive? Do you have any issues with the Fictionkin identity, whether that be people accessing services because of it, people being mean because of it? Also, let me know. Ultimately, I don't want this to be a place where people are just laughing at Fictionkins, because that's not what I do on my page. I do try consistently when it comes to all sorts of communities, whether I'm in them or not, to be as fair and as balanced as I possibly can, because ultimately I feel like the weird and strange world we live in is what makes it wonderful. Please don't cause any bother to anyone who has been featured. Ultimately, I want this video to be one taken in good faith and hopefully cause a positive discussion, or at least bring awareness to something that maybe you didn't know about. Of course, as always, artists, let me know, what are you doing right now? What are you doing? Let me see. Let me look. And now, as always, I want to thank my beautiful Patreon members who support my videos. Everyone from the casual tier all the way to the otaku and oshi tier, with our oshi tier members being Nina Hopkins, Falky Gone Missing, Lucy, Shy Raw, Harakivo, Danny16, Meryl Lyra, Neon Ferris Wheel, Florenciaga, Hive Angel, Onyx, Kira, Mooney's Silly Palace, Icy Law, Rami Does Her Best, Crybaby Mothman. Also had 2 new members join after filming, and that is Camo Gorman and Chaos Kofix. And oddities. And of course, all of our beautiful otaku tier patrons on screen as well. Supporting me over on Patreon doesn't just directly financially help me, which is still a big part and a big thing that I want to thank you for, but it also gives you access to behind the scenes content that isn't on my public channel. Everything from vlogs, panels, and even room tours and collection tours. There is a bunch of stuff already on there, like hours and hours and hours and hours worth of entertainment already there. There's more coming, of course, there's always more coming. I'll be doing some figure unboxings, I'll be having more and more bits over there. I'm also hoping to get back into streaming as well, so I'm gonna try and get a little schedule set up for that once my birthday's been and gone. It's also gonna be my birthday soon. I don't know when I'm uploading this, but my birthday is the 28th of August, so if it's the 28th of August or not, but you're still seeing this before or after, say happy birthday, it's my birthday. And if I don't see you saying happy birthday, I'll assume you hate me. I'll assume you hate me. But of course, as always, the cheapest and easiest way of supporting me and what I do is by watching the video, liking the video, commenting down below, having a discussion, causing a thread, causing a stir, without being weird and mean about it. Don't do that. Just chatting down below is always appreciated. Leave your thoughts in the video, update your thoughts in the video as you go on. Of course, using the hype feature, which I believe is still a thing over on mobile. And of course, subscribing and hitting the bell icon beside it to never miss an upload. But until my next video, I'll see you next time. Bye. Starting out on the top of my head, we have my AC/DC rag headdress. You've seen it before. I'm not going to go on, but I love this headdress. Cheap, cheerful, and it looks so good with so many outfits. It's just such a versatile item. Then the blouse that I'm wearing is from Access Femme. Now, I did buy this brand new in Japan when it first came out because I was in the store in Sunshine City and I was like, oh, this is really, really cute. They do it in pink and white too, if you like those colors more. But this is really, really comfy. It's a lovely, beautiful, billowy blouse. Has so many details on the front. However, that is currently covered up by my beautiful blah blah hospital dress, which is also a little bit obscured by my corset, which I will go into in a minute. But this is my blah blah hospital dress. This is a handmade item by a small designer, and every single item they make is unique and it's custom, and they never really have anything that's one and the same. So I got this at Keta Shop in the Shinjuku Maroi Annex Mall, and then I've corseted it with this really fantastic Hoshibako Works corset. I love this corset so much. I ended up getting upsold on it by my friend Gemma when I was visiting her at work. Gemma knows the heat because I have fallen in love with this corset since buying it on that day. It's one of my favorite items and I wear it so much, and I kind of want to get a second one in case anything ever happens to this one, so I'm never without it because I love it so much. But it is a fantastic corset. It comes in a small, medium, and a large. This is a medium. And there's also a large as well, but check the sizing online using Lolly Library or Lol Library because it'll be able to tell you more information. But yeah, that is today's outfit. It's a little vampy, it's very bright and colourful, it's quite punky. I love it. Blah Blah Hospital item is definitely one of my favourite pieces as well. I love this dress, and obviously go and check out the brands and let me know what you think down below.